From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Outfitters and fishing guides are putting their money where their mouth is to try to solve the problem of dwindling trout numbers in the Big Hole and other rivers.
The Gallatin Valley Food Bank is seeing a drastic increase for the demand of food. I'm Kristen Merkel, and I'll tell you why.
Good morning, Southwest Montana. Looking at Butte, looking like Ireland right now with how green it is.
It's absolutely beautiful out there as well. You can see the clouds hanging on the mountains out there, some snow on the upper reaches as well.
It's my favorite when the sun's low and it just makes everything look
It's really
like
pretty,
that.
isn't it there? Yeah, nice shadows and all of that. It's going to get greener, or at least it's going to get wetter as we work our way through this Friday.
June showers bring July flowers.
More June showers is what June showers. They're just breeding showers. That's what we're doing. Temperatures outside not bad. We tied a record in Butte yesterday for a record low. We did in Bozeman as well, Dillon, Livingston, and that. We're going to be away from that range for a while. I think temperatures are going to moderate a little bit. The downside is we're going to get some moisture out of it. In Bozeman today, thunder showers this afternoon, could be heavy at times, bringing some rain, bringing some hail possibility as well for Butte. Temperatures into the 60s. Thunder showers could be heavy at times. We have more on that and what the future looks like as we head into the weekend coming up in a couple minutes.
All right, thank you, Chet. Well, it might not be good, but the rivers might get some beneficial moisture out of this, and some anglers and fishing guides are taking matters into their own hands across Southwest Montana. As our John Amy tells us, fishing guides are responding to the dropping numbers of trout in the Big Hole River.
Outfitters and those in the fly fishing business are so concerned about the dwindling trout population in the Big Hole River and other rivers in Southwest Montana that they're starting to put up their own money to fund scientific research that they hope will solve this problem.
I don't think this is a sky is falling, the rivers are dead scenario. This is a call to action now so that we preserve the integrity of these rivers for the future.
A coalition of outfitters and fishing guides recently formed Save Wild Trout in response to a report showing low numbers of brown and rainbow trout, especially young trout, in the Big Hole River. The group is raising money to pay for a pathologist to conduct an independent study of fish in the Big Hole, Ruby, and Beaverhead rivers.
We're essentially not really confident that the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks in the governor's office is doing enough to get to the bottom of what's going on. Why are, one of the most iconic rivers in Montana and possibly the western United States is suddenly, falling to, 50-year lows in trout numbers.
In a June 19th letter, Governor Greg Gianforte assured the Save Wild Trout group that FWP has prioritized and will develop and implement additional fish population and health studies on the Big Hole, Beaverhead, and Ruby rivers. Felon said he will share data from their independent study with FWP in the hopes that it will help come up with a solution sooner than later.
We need to fix this now so that these fisheries are resilient and we'll have a robust fishery moving forward.
Craig Felon started guiding on the river with Big Hole Lodge almost 40 years ago and said the Big Hole is more than just a river.
My heart and soul. It's one of the most beautiful rivers in the world, and there's more to fly fishing than catching a bunch of trout. Just to float down this river rejuvenates the soul.
They hope to get the study started by this summer. In Wise River, John Amy, MTN News.
All right, thank you, John. And officials in the Gallatin Valley say that they're seeing an increase in hunger for local families. That's happening just after Montana announced that it will not accept federal funds from the Department of Agriculture for money that is aimed at filling gaps for families struggling with food insecurity. Our Kristen Merkel takes a look at that local impact.
I'm here at the Gallatin Valley Food Bank that is seeing their largest uptick in need and without certain government funds is having a harder time keeping up with the demand for food.
Right now, it's like once you're down, it's really hard to get back up.
HRDC's Food and Nutrition Director, Jill Holder, has been working with the food bank for a decade and says the need for assistance has drastically increased.
Our highest number of households per month was about 1,500. Last month, May, we saw 1,700 households. Well, all I can do is go to the numbers, and it's like if I see numbers when there was assistance, more like 740, and now I have numbers of 1,700, like there's definitely a change.
Holder says these increases spiked after the pandemic.
During the pandemic in 20 and 21, there was a big boost in benefits, and that helped our customers a lot. We were seeing a lot fewer customers during that time than we are now.
Montana recently announced that they will no longer accept funds from the pandemic electronic benefit transfer. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, PEBT was for eligible school children to receive temporary emergency nutrition benefits loaded on EBT cards that are used to purchase food. With school out, the food bank is feeling the pressure.
In the summer, our numbers always go up. July is one of our biggest months because, you know, there are kids at home and they need food. Our summer lunch program is very busy. I think we have 7 sites operating, and then that's just in our area.
Holder says the Gallatin Valley Food Bank wouldn't be what it is without the community support, but other sources of help are always welcome.
I love the idea of nonprofits being able to help assist our community. Our community helps the nonprofits, but then our government also can help at times.
If you're interested in helping the food bank, visit our website. In Bozeman, Kristen Merkel, NTN News.
Tomorrow marks 1 year since the Dobbs decision came down from the Supreme Court, a landmark ruling that changed reproductive rights around the country, giving states more authority to decide what's legal and what's not. 1 year later, our Joe St. George shows us what's next in the political battle for reproductive rights and why it's more likely to involve more ballot measures at the state level rather than cases at the Supreme Court.
Excuse me, I'm collecting signatures.
1 year since the fall of Roe v. Wade politically, this issue looks a lot like this.
Can I get a signature?
Yep.
Great.
Are you registered to vote in Franklin County?
Canvassers collecting petitions, hoping to get an abortion-related question on their state's ballot, a process that requires a lot of clipboards and signatures.
The state requirement's 413,000.
This petition gathering effort is happening in Ohio, which just may be ground zero in the reproductive rights fight in 2023. Organizers have until July to submit signatures to the state in order to qualify for this November's ballot. What's happening here isn't unique. Since the Supreme Court's landmark decision, all of these states have held ballot measures on abortion. It's possible all of these states will hold elections on the issue either this year or next, according to Ballotpedia, a nonpartisan group that tracks potential elections. In 2022, 6 statewide abortion-related elections occurred, and each time, the side pushing for more reproductive rights won, which is why in Ohio there is an eagerness by progressives to get their issue on the state ballot.
Whenever abortion is on the ballot, it wins.
Anastasia Martinez says her group is doing this because there is a concern that conservatives who lead the state legislature and the state Supreme Court will soon restrict access. In the last year, 14 states have banned most abortions. In Ohio, abortion prior to 22 weeks is currently permitted, but a law banning most procedures after 6 weeks could soon be allowed by the state Supreme Court. Until that opinion is issued, the law is on hold. If Martinez's ballot measure passes, though, it would place abortion protections in the state constitution.
There is a fear, but there is also a lot of optimism.
A year later, the tactic for progressives is very different from the tactic conservatives are taking. Do you feel like you're playing a little defense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that with politics, it's always an ebb and flow.
Elizabeth Marbach is with Ohio Right to Life, a group that advocates against all elective abortions unless the health of the mother is at stake. After years of fighting to get conservative judges and lawmakers in the right places, she says groups like hers are committed to protecting what they achieved last year. Part of that includes making it harder for reproductive rights groups to get ballot measures passed. In August, voters will decide on a separate ballot measure that would change the threshold in which an issue needs to make it into the Constitution. Currently in Ohio, you need 50% plus one of the voters statewide to amend the Constitution. If the ballot measure in August is approved, any change would need 60% from voters instead. Collecting signatures isn't the only way to create a ballot measure in Ohio. Conservative state lawmakers have the right to create a ballot question themselves, and they did so last month. Is this ballot measure to make it harder to change the Constitution a direct result of your side fearing that this abortion measure is going to be in front of
It was a motivating factor. It would not be truthful to say otherwise. The strategy is still the same, advocating for life.
One thing is abundantly clear. 1 year removed from the Supreme Court decision, the political fight over abortion is not over. It just looks different. Instead of protests and cases at the Supreme Court, it's clipboards at local parks. Joe St. George, Scripps News, Columbus.
And you'll be sure to want to join us this Sunday night as Scripps News continues to explore abortion rights, the abortion rights debate. Coming up Sunday after our 10 o'clock news at 10:35, you can catch a special report called Abortion in America, hosted by Montana's own Marita Giorgio, only here on KBZK and KXLF. And shifting gears now, scientists across the pond want to get ahead of the herd when it comes to cutting greenhouse gas emissions from livestock. On a sheep farm in the English countryside, there's a pioneering project that's underway to breed sheep. Our CBS's Ian Lee reports from England.
British farmer Rob Hodgkins hopes to lead his flock to a greener pasture.
You're looking for the needle in a haystack, or that single little black sheep amongst all the white ones.
British scientists are helping with the hunt. What are you looking for exactly?
So what we're looking for is for animals that tend to be low methane emitters.
Professor Joanne Connington and her team hauled in a special methane machine to find out just how gassy each sheep is.
The animals go into a specific location for about 50 minutes, and there is a gas analyzer on the top which monitors the amount of the methane.
Scientists estimate there are about 1.2 billion sheep around the world and that they're releasing nearly 8 million tons of methane into the atmosphere every year. The carbon cutting concept came from New Zealand, where researchers selected and bred the world's first low methane emitting sheep, slashing harmful emissions by 16%.
There is something about these animals that are better, more efficient at perhaps digesting their food and growing faster.
Just on the field very sort of.
For Rob, it's a long-term investment that he sees as a good-natured gamble.
I'm sort of effectively taking a bet that in 10 years, some of the big retailers, supermarkets will be more interested in low methane meat, if you like, meat that has a lower carbon footprint.
Betting the farm on the future of green sheep. Ian Lee, CBS News, Hertfordshire, England.
And farmers are hoping that the pioneering project will reduce emissions by 25% within the next 10 to 15 years. That's actually pretty interesting. Who would have thought that sheep could reduce that much methane by doing that? So perfect. And after the break, we'll have more top stories to take a look at.